Thank you. Somebody take their foot off the internet cable. There you go. Thank you. No worries. All right, consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda, which are considered routine or non-controversial, are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight on consent agenda, we've got 3.1 minutes from the November 3rd, 2025 city council meeting. 3.2, approve the letter of credit reduction for the ranch at Credit River second edition. 3.3, the 2026 payroll and holiday calendar. 3.4, approve the resignation of the accounting technician. 3.5, approve the job posting for accounting technician. 3.6, resolution 2025-37, certifying delinquent community sewer treatment fees and related interest. And 3.7, approval of claims and bills and transfer as requested and presented. Does any council member like to remove anything from consent agenda this evening to consider separately? If not, I take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Leroy. Motion by Soderbach, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss, but will not take formal action on public forum presentations. But one person signed up tonight, Mr. Bryant. Step to the podium, please.
Mayor Costick and council members, my name is Tom Bryant and I live at 7697 Crestview Drive here in Credit River. On October 21st, I sent the city administrator this email to forward on to the full council. The purpose of the email was to respond to Councilmember Leroy Schomer's profane, unprofessional, and unjustified comments he made during the October 20th budget workshop meeting about the recommendation made by the Government Center Citizens Advisory Committee to remodel the City Hall building. At the budget workshop meeting, Councilmember Schomer stated, and I quote, "Screw the advisory committee for blank's sake. We should make up our own minds for what we want to do." As the former chairman of the Government Center Citizens Advisory Committee and a Credit River resident, my email requested Councilmember Schomer make a public apology to the GCCAC members and the residents of Credit River at the November 3rd, 2025 City Council meeting. No apology was made at that meeting, nor, to the best of my knowledge, has any apology been made. As I stated in my email message, in the absence of a public apology, a council member who makes such statements does not deserve to represent Credit River residents on this city council. While the first part of Councilmember Schomer's statement bordered on the profane, the second part of his statement, also about making up your own minds to do what the council wants to do, is deeply disturbing. Why? As individual members of the city council, you have the right to your opinions and your votes. You were elected after all. However, it is important to remember that you represent and work for and on behalf of the citizens of Credit River. And your decisions need to reflect the wishes and desires of the community as a whole. And this includes citizen advisory committees as well. To think otherwise is the antithesis of a democratic form of government. I would ask the city administrator for the status of posting to the city's website as recommended by Councilmember Zanto at the workshop meeting with the GCCAC in September, the opinions expressed by Mayor Costick and Councilmembers Schomer and Soderbach that remodeling City Hall would not be a long-term solution. If the opinions of these three members of the council are posted to the city's website, then this article, which the GCCAC submitted to the council in May of this year, explaining all of the work that our committee did and its final recommendation and its reasons for those recommendations to remodel City Hall, should also be posted to the website and included in an upcoming issue of the city's newsletter. It was supposed to be published in the newsletter, but it never was. The membership of the GCCAC also included a construction specialist. This member believed, as did all members of the GCCAC, that provided an architect properly assesses the condition of this building and compiled plans to expand and remodel the structure, then a remodeled city hall, along with a new septic system, would serve this city and its residents for up to 20 years. Finally, during the September workshop meeting with the GCCAC, Mayor Kostick mentioned that the end of November would be a reasonable timeline to determine whether the city would renew the GCCAC's charter with new objectives. The end of November is fast approaching, and I would appreciate an update regarding the future of the GCCAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Anybody else for open forum tonight? Seeing none, we'll close open forum and move into general business. General business 7.1, third quarter financial reports. Sue.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Attached are your third quarter financial reports this September 30th. The report shows that the city's general fund is running ahead of budget projections on total revenues. If you add in total taxes for the year, it would be at 102.23%. We only get 50% of it. We've only received 50% of it now because we get the rest at the end of the year. Factors contributing to this include building and zoning activity. It's running more than budgeted, as you can see by the revenues, and transfer activity as a result of audit entries and actions taken earlier this year. The reports show that the general fund expenditures are close to projections, and notations are noted on those reports that are under budget or paid for the year. Public Works items are seasonal in nature, and some of these bills from late summer, fall work are not reflected in these numbers yet, as the bills may not have been received for payment by the end of September. Typically, we don't get some of those bills until October, paid in November. All the other funds are running as expected. Construction projects typically do not reflect the actual results until year end because of timing and billing. A lot of times we don't get some of the contractor invoices until year end, and so we have to do audit adjustments at that point in time. The enterprise fund revenue numbers are close to what you budgeted for those increased budget rates, so we're on with those. And if you have any questions, I would take those.
Council, any questions? All right. If none, I would take a motion to accept and approve the third quarter financial reports.
Make the motion.
Gabe,
Second.
thank you, Jay. Motion by Santos, second by Sonderbach. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to 7.2, summary of the November 3rd, 2025 closed session. On November 3rd, 2025, the city council held a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.05 subdivision 3A. At the November 3rd council meeting, the council to conduct performance evaluation of city administrator pursuant to the statute. A summary of the closed meeting is to be provided at the next meeting. This serves as that summary of the closed session. We'll move on to 7.3, Minnesota paid leave policy. Administrator Jelinski.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is the draft policy for the Minnesota paid leave law that will go into effect January 1st, 2026. Any employee that will work 50% or more during the calendar year at a location within the state of Minnesota, and that will work from, that includes working from home, but works at for a business in Minnesota. And then there's a financial component eligibility requirement, and that is $3,900 or more per year. Is also required to be on this. It is an insurance plan. It uses the unemployment insurance platform. We are electing to use the state plan. You can use a third-party insurance plan as well. That is not something that we are electing to do at this time. You have chosen to pay 100% of the premium for 2026. That can change annually. We will look at that annually. Employees can take up to 12 weeks for themselves. and can take up to 12 weeks to take care of a family member, but can only take up to 20 weeks in a benefit year. So that could be 12 weeks for themselves and 8 weeks for a family member or vice versa. Employees must notify the city prior to taking leave. That would mean informing myself. And then they would need to file a claim with the state through the website. They can use PTO to supplement during that time. They can also use this leave concurrently with FMLA leave to extend that. So someone can use up to 40 weeks. And then they may also maintain health insurance if they're not using PTO time. They would have to pay for coverage of that during that leave. And then also similar to FMLA, their job would be reinstated upon return for that. And then there is also retaliation protection for this leave. And then there is requirements for the job or the employer. One of them is posting of the leave, which we have done both at the job site and then individually. The job site is done, as you can see by the poster on the wall already. And then we have to have some of the policies in place before we can notify individually. So this needs to be done before we can do that individually. That needs to be done by December 1st. So we are here tonight doing this. And then we also need to assign a plan administrator. We are going to assign the finance director as one, the account technician as two, and then myself as three. We can do as many as we want per city. We don't need to do a whole bunch. But we already have that set up on the state unemployment website already. We have an account for unemployment, so we're kind of ahead of the curve already. So if you have any questions on this, I will take those. It's a lot. It's confusing, but we will include this with the personnel policy once approved. And
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Council, questions, comments?
I have one, under maintaining health coverage during leave, page 4. I would move to change the verbiage on the second paragraph. It says employee share premiums payments for their group's health insurance coverage may, at the employee's option, be prepay, write a check every 2 weeks, or post pay. I don't think we should leave that open to the employee's option. I think we should modify that, and I think we should have a third. 1 and 2 would be number 1 and 2. I'd actually ask to insert a third option to use PTO. Accumulated PTO for paying down that. And then last but not least, then post pay. I just feel like if you allow for post pay, it
That's
just,
the way it's gonna go.
it's gonna go there, and many times that might be in a situation. Hopefully it's not that case, but maybe 12 weeks gets up and we might have
Not here anymore.
things change, right? So I think to protect the city is take out the employee's option, and 1 and 2 would be one would be the preferred, and then 2 and 3 would be the option, and 4th would be if all else fails. So I don't know how we want that.
I'd agree with that.
You know, maybe instead of that, the employee's option, working with the employee, preferred option would be number 1, prepay. If prepay is not an option due to timing, arrange to write a check or use accrued PTO, and as a last option, post pay. But that would be on a rare occurrence, hopefully, or an exception based.
Do the regs require us to have these options in here?
I was gonna ask, opinion if there was a statutorial method to this piece here.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, that's an excellent question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, except I know that my partners who are experts in employment law spend a lot of time developing this policy. And before we make a change like that, I would like to run it by them to make sure this
Yeah.
is one of those areas where we have that discretion.
Yep. I would say what I'm asking for aligns with private for sure, but I'm not sure for
Yep.
public.
Understood.
I think it's fair to get the reviews it, but let me ask this, is there a time limit when we need to approve this, Steve?
Before the first of the year.
Okay, so we have
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah.
So we can bring this back at the
We can
next
bring this
meeting.
back. Was there anything else in this policy that we'd like clarification on, since we're gonna go back for clarification on that piece?
And I don't think that these are requirement, as I was looking through these, the league actually gave the option and said that a lot of places are saying take number 3 out of here and don't even give the option for number 3. But
Okay,
Should we maybe remove that then?
well, I think Jay, I think it's worthwhile letting Peter go
Look at
back and
it.
do a review of it first and make sure it
My
complies
only
with
fear with
what.
taking it out is then we don't have do we have the legal action to go and get it done later? So
Mhm.
I would put some verbiage around it. This is on exception based only or something of that nature that,
Upon approval,
yeah, upon approval, or if these other 3 are not options for whatever reason. I don't know.
that's fair. Let's let Peter and his group do a little work on that and then bring it back to us at our first meeting in December. Any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll move into 7.4, request for proposals for 2050 comprehensive plan, Administrator Jelinski.
thank you, Mayor and Council. Get there. All right, so this is the second phase of the planning RFPs that you had requested, and this one's a little bit more bulky than the first one. The RFP for the comp plan has a little more requirements because of the Met Council, and so it's a little longer than the first one, and this is inclusive of a little more community engagement, and it also has city council and planning commission serving as the steering committee for this RFP. The timeline has it starting tomorrow as the posting date and has it going for about a month and a half, with interviews for about a week at the end of January, with the anticipated contract approval date at the beginning of February, and it's starting around spring of 2026. The project is supposed to be done at the end of 2028. However, the Met Council needs to approve this and fully in 2028, but it takes about a year of back and forth negotiation. So we need this done probably late 2026, very early 2027. So the bulk of the work is going to be done a lot of next year, late next year. So that's going to happen next year. Some of the options for the council to consider is if you want the steering committee to be made up of the council and the planning commission, or if you would like to appoint a steering committee of someone else, whether that be local realtors and a council member and a planning commission member and a staff member, or something else. And then, or if you want a different timeline, those are kind of the options outside of what I drew up. That's just from what I was looking at other proposals and RFPs that are out there that are using Met Council or that are in the Met Council district, that I found. So if you have any other questions based on that, you know, I kind of plagiarized some of the other RFPs that are out there now, because they're really extensive. So
Thank you, Steve. Council members, any questions or comments? If not, is anybody ready to make a motion to approve this, so that we can get this released tomorrow?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jay. Motion by Schomer, second by Seiderbach to approve the request for proposals for the 2050 comprehensive plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Move into 7.5, discussion about ordinance 2021-07, ordinance prohibiting hunting on public property. Administrator Jelinski.
thank you, Mayor and Council. We've had a large number of complaints about duck hunting lately on particularly on Markley Lake. And it was brought to our attention that our ordinance for hunting on public property is a little bit vague, and actually Deputy Strack also brought this to our attention, and so we had Attorney Michael look at our ordinance as well. And so our ordinance states that in our packet here that public parks and other public property is what it says, and that it means that Markley Lake is a public lake with public access, and the public does have rights called the riparian rights to use the lake. And those rights include the right to fish and hunt on the lake. However, the DNR is the one who regulates public waters. And so it would be unusual for the city to attempt to regulate public waters in our ordinance that says public parks and public property. So the discussion for the council is whether or not we would like to amend our ordinance to state public parks and other public lands. Because we're not able to enforce public waters.
So just background on why this ordinance exists to begin with is the city owns about 20 acres of property north of County Road 21 that you really can't access unless you really know where you're going. And some property owners were allowing somebody from an outside resident, not somebody that lived in Crater River, to deer hunt on that property. And so we took this action to stop hunting on Crater River owned property, because it was in people's backyards. It wasn't a great situation.
They're cutting some trees down,
Mm-hmm.
cutting trees down other people's property. So,
Yeah.
because they said they didn't know where the boundaries were.
Mm-hmm. We didn't take into consideration waterfowl hunting at the time. It was specifically a deer hunting situation. Deputy Strack, when he was here, had talked to the county attorney earlier today, and his opinion is the same, that the wording that we have in this does not prohibit hunting on Markley Lake. And even still, I thought the DNR does have regulations that you can't hunt within 500 feet of a habited structure. And you can't get 500 feet on that lake from a structure. However, Deputy Strack indicated just earlier before our meeting that that doesn't include water. If you're 1 foot in the lake, you can be 3 feet from a structure and still hunt. So that's why the DNR would not enforce it the other day when that situation happened. So it's kind of
A question of that, I'm looking at 2/3 of Markley Lake lies within city limits of Credit River.
Prior Lake. Yeah,
So they obviously have something that prevents that.
I do.
So what we have to do is we need to actually study the third of Markley Lake, the eastern third, which does lie within Credit River. And if I get this right, we need to just craft a new ordinance or modify that ordinance.
And I'll let Peter Michael.
Thank you, Mayor and
Comment on that.
Council. We have looked into this. Our opinion is no, the city shouldn't be in the business of regulating fishing and hunting on public waters. The DNR does that. And since the intent of the statute of the ordinance seemed to us to be, you weren't really trying to butt heads with the DNR, we should probably clarify that. If you want to consider whether we should find some way to butt heads with DNR, I can look into that. But I don't think it's a viable option for the city.
But that actually, I kind of just look at that, and if you're waterfowl hunting on that, from that. You're just too close to residences. It's just not safe. You know, if they're not able to enforce. Other regulations on that particular thing, isn't it our duty to at least try to keep our residents safe?
There is a concept in the law called preemption. Where if the DNR has the authority to say where and how you can hunt on public waters. Local jurisdictions generally don't have that authority. So when I talk about euphemistically butting heads with DNR, it would be looking for cracks in that preemption theory. To allow us to overlay some additional regulations in the city on what the DNR already does. And if the council would like me to do that, I can certainly look down that road and see what might be possible. I'm not sure that there's much there, but I'm happy to look if that's what council would like.
Well, obviously somebody called and made a complaint to the sheriff's department or DNR about the hunting that was going on because they considered it to not be safe. You know, a resident or something. So that was what drew that out there. Looking at it, you know, by all standard practices of hunting regulations and everything else, there's a reason why you wouldn't do that, hunt there. And I know that we have a pond very, very close to this that was absolutely full with waterfowl for the last several weeks. And they're both of them have been absolutely full. So I can see why somebody would want to be in it, but they're definitely the range of the shotgun that's doing that is, and you're shooting upwards at the houses that are there. I mean, it's not safe. And so, you know, if there is something that simply we could do to just say, I'm sure that Prior Lake does not allow it within their city limits, which is 2/3 of this lake. Where would we be at? Or could we research what Prior Lake is doing and have something similar? Do they have something on it or not?
They do. So Prior Lake has a couple different things. They prohibit discharge of dangerous weapons, which calls out firearms, period. Let me see what it says in 97. Section 8-97.
Right.
Right, reference there, but I don't see.
Councilmember Sauterbach, I am aware of some communities outlawing hunting within their entire jurisdiction.
And I don't think we want to
And
do
I don't, yeah, it doesn't seem like a
No,
Credit River thing to do.
no, that is just a specific. I mean, this is just a specific instance in a specific place that,
Although it could happen on any water body.
It
in
could.
the river,
It
right?
could.
Of Krenz Lake.
it could.
You know,
So could we name it specifically, you know, as a place that can't be done? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
would be to protect the residents that are there.
So I understand the objective.
Yeah.
There are some obvious legal hurdles, but potentially there are some legal strategies I can look into if that's the will of the council.
How's everybody else feel?
So one of the complaints was levied, what of the DNR, was DNR brought into this?
They were, yeah,
They had no desire to do anything,
nope.
did they give any reason, rationale?
Yeah, so this is again, Deputy Strack had reached out to me that day that it happened. He said that he had called the Officer Fogarty over, which is the area DNR officer. And he looked at our ordinance and said, well, I can't enforce anything on there, and said there was nothing he could do.
But don't they have their own regulations?
Right.
And they couldn't enforce any of their regulations. They weren't doing anything wrong.
If they
Correct.
want to put in the water.
Yep,
Wait,
They weren't doing anything illegal.
correct.
They weren't, but that doesn't mean that they weren't doing something that was not very wise.
so what does changing the ordinance do from resolving this issue? It doesn't sound like it does. It just brings clarity to what we as a
We
city can do.
We could add a paragraph. That's what I'm thinking. I'm asking, could we add a paragraph to that same ordinance? Which just treats a specific instance, which would be that lake. I mean, you know, you can look through DNR regulations and they're very, very specific about certain instances within DNR regulations and everything else. So I don't think that that's really doing that. And it's not really taking other rights away from other people in other places. It's just enforcing sanity in one place. That's where it's, you know, it's not safe for the residents that are surrounding that. But to leave it up to somebody to be able to, you know, go in and basically violate all of the, you know, all of the morals of the hunter safety code, essentially to do that and discharge the weapon there. You know, because they're not being wise and smart, we shouldn't allow them to put our residents at risk.
So if I may, Mayor and Council, what I'm hearing isn't a request right now to redraft the ordinance, but rather
Look at
for
it,
direction
research
to my office to research what options you might have when you're unsatisfied with the way the DNR is regulating a particular water in your state, in your city.
Well, maybe if I could ask a clarifying question.
Yeah.
The way this was on the agenda was we were changing the ordinance to say public land instead of public property. My question is, when we do that, what are we trying to solve with that?
So if I may, Mayor and Council, what's on the ordinance on the agenda was clarifying the ordinance to mean what we all understood it to mean. Councilmember Sauterbach has advanced a new policy for the council to consider. And I'm simply asking whether the council would like me to spend the time to see what legal strategies might be available.
So just one more, by moving that from public property to public land. The DNR has the same position at this point.
That's correct.
Based on, okay, that was,
Mhm.
okay.
The only thing that goes with that is that doesn't, according to the deputy, conversation happened just before the meeting. There's an issue with land versus water in that, so it wouldn't, you know, there is a problem. We should also be considering water at some point, because it doesn't, that apparently is exempt. Water is exempt from the land,
Public waters.
public
Mhm.
waters.
I think it would be worthwhile to understand our options.
Right.
Has this happened before? Or is it just one rogue hunter this year that decided to go there?
They've hunted there before,
Have we had complaints in prior years?
have not received complaints in prior years.
And the ducks are gone now?
So it's not like it's a hurry bill, right? I mean, it's not like this is an emergency, it's just worthwhile understanding what our options are for the future. It's not, you know, I think the first complaint we received was actually from Prior Lake, right, Steve? You had received a complaint from Manager Waddell from their public safety office. Mhm.
Duck hunting will be over soon.
In their ordinance.
Was their ordinance allowed not, so you can't hunt on their side of the lake, but you can hunt on our side of the lake?
That's their opinion.
But I thought the DNR is the only one that regulates the lake. So how can they do that? Or did they just put it out there and they hope that'll never be, you know, questioned?
If you'll permit me, Councilmember Market, I'd like to smile and nod at this point. I don't have an opinion
Okay.
about their,
Yeah.
their strategy.
But the DNR controls and regulates the lake.
The
Their
DNR
laws.
absolutely does do that. What room there is in addition for a city to do that, short of banning hunting in our jurisdiction? I don't know off the top of my head, and we could research that if that's an objective
I don't
that
think
the
we
county
hunt
would
it.
like us to pursue.
Yeah, hunting in the river.
Right.
That's. Don't wanna do them.
How many lakes within Credit River are we talking about that would have this kind of issue?
Kearns and Markley, the others are in the parks.
So,
Oh, technically, I wonder if it would affect what happens in the parks then.
Not if we just name those two lakes.
Again, this is where I think we need some
Yeah.
legal opinions on options of.
We need
of
Peter
this.
to nod.
Then smile at the same time. It looks like Prior Lake has recodified their ordinances and aren't quite finished because it's referencing pieces that don't exist in their chapters about this. It talks about a chapter 97A that doesn't exist.
Well, they must feel that they've got it covered enough. If Waddell called us and said, fix it.
Well, he didn't say fix it. He said he was curious about what our ordinances were pertaining to hunting. Because they have a complaint, now that those homes are on that,
Yeah,
the east-west side of the lake over there. I think that they were, some people were a little disturbed that people were hunting there.
yeah.
Right or wrong.
There's decks within 50 feet of the water
Mhm.
down there. The backyard, back of house.
There is a
It's very
very riverside. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a home that's 12 feet from the water down there,
Correct.
so,
Right.
yeah. Well, should have been 30 or 40, but the high water's washed.
High
most of
water's
that right
gonna
away.
Yeah,
So are we good with having Peter give us some options on this one?
I am.
Yes,
Yeah. I think
Doesn't
it's
mean we have
worthwhile.
to do anything. with
Right,
it, but
it's
at
not
least
saying
we
we're doing
learn
anything, but
what
let's let's learn what legally options we have. All right, anything else on that subject?
is there a reason why we've been changing the ordinance then to just for clarity's sake? Or do we think that changing the
The-
ordinance prior could be impacted by what you find?
Well, we couldn't change the ordinance to say anything. We'd have to hold a public hearing and everything in order to change that ordinance. So we'd have to notice that and go through that process. So, when we,
Your Honor, this is not a zoning ordinance,
so we wouldn't have to.
but
hold
this
it.
is on the agenda tonight just for discussion.
Yeah.
That exactly get at these very issues. We
Mhm.
thought that you intended to regulate hunting on land and not
Mhm.
water. And a little question about, like Councilmember Soderback was talking about, do you want to explore something new? And so that's why it's on for discussion.
Mhm.
I would recommend that we bring it back for discussion of the whole plate of options, including clarifying the existing land.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree. All right. Cool. Move to 7.6, discussion Stonebridge CSTS fence. Leroy, I think you put this one on.
oh. I just went out, looked at it, I know they want it repaired, some trees cut down. Kind of looking. $2,000 to $4,000 to repair what's there, I'm not sure. What they want, I think we should have a meeting with them. Most of the split rail fence is kind of rotten, so. And whatever those whatever trees they want removed, I think are right in front, but. I know that they had mentioned, they'd like to do some of the work themselves, but. They'll have a liability issue, or who knows where they're gonna drive on the property or whatever.
We can't
Opens up
drive
another-
over the.
Another can of worms. So. So we maybe. Set up a meeting with whoever at Stonebridge. Stephen,
I think, the HOA president had reached out a week or so ago, and I thought he was gonna reach out to you about his thoughts on this, about what the HOA's thoughts on these items were, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
All right. You do that.
yeah, I think the interesting thing would be is to. You know, we got that split rail fence that goes around that whole area.
Well, it's not
The
split
split
rail.
rail is on the front part where you can see it, and it's up against people's properties.
Treated 2x4s around the back.
The backside,
Back,
right? Be interesting to see if there's something a little more sustainable than that. You know, whether it be plantings or,
Talking to Tyler, we could put signage around the back,
And not have any fence.
yeah,
but on the homes,
or backs up
they
to,
would like to see fencing because
people tend to encroach.
people keep moving out, making another swipe cutting and get a little farther, but now that their backyards are established, maybe signage would work. So I don't know, and reaching out to Tyler, who's in charge of this, he said his guy would be expensive to come out and do it again, and I said, well, we could hire somebody, Mr. Fix It or somebody, they have the right insurance, to go out for a third of the price to repair this, so. Depending on what they want.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, any questions on that subject, anybody? No? Let's go to staff and council member updates, and I'll start on my right. Peter, anything for us? Claire, anything? Steve? No?
Thursday, the catch basins should be getting blacktopped, and then they're complete, they're seeded, they're in, they're done. Ed's got a guy that's gonna clean out the end of the catch basin, in Nevada, so. It's on schedule.
Okay. Tomorrow, the county at 9 o'clock will take up ditch 4 again. If you've not seen their packet for tomorrow and look at the assessment map. It sure looks like somebody just took a couple of darts and threw them at a map. Cause it is all over the place. It's crazy what they determined was benefiting properties and what wasn't benefiting properties. I mean, ones that are right next to the Credit River are not, but ones that are 2 properties further back are, and it's kind of a mess.
So maybe a few people down there.
Potentially, yeah, 9 o'clock if you're bored, it's on the YouTube, so.
Yeah.
So just a, interesting, total benefiting, acres is about 1,000 acres. 920 of that's in Credit River, so it's a very small piece that's actually outside of Credit River that benefits from it. According to the packet that they passed out, if the whole assessment, I think they thought the repairs were gonna be about 100,000. The largest amount by any single taxpayer would have been $8,300. That's 4 parcels on 66 acres, so. So we'll see what happens out of that tomorrow. Yeah. Jay?
Went to the scale meeting, on Friday. And they had legislative updates on priority, on scales priorities for the next year. One of the things that was kind of interesting to learn was that, $946 million worth of, costs for, federal mandates that have been referred back to the state because of state statutes will actually pass through to the counties and property taxes. Which is $946 million spread across the state of Minnesota. For things that are required to be done, but aren't being paid for by the federal government anymore. So that kind of a little scary. There were a number of projects that were on there, including the sewer for Country Court. And been essentially adding the infrastructure to make some sort of an entrance into Credit River. Another thing that was brought up was actually the county's gonna need to spend 500 million. I take that back, across the entire state, it's a $500 million cost to update. I'm sorry, I'm getting these things mixed up here. Looking at my notes here, the county is gonna have to spend a lot of money to replace its emergency wiring or
The radio system, public safety radio.
Yep, public safety and then actually Terry Steer was actually talking about how much money it was gonna cost throughout the state, because basically the entire state's gotta update. And unfortunately, that's something that has to be done. See, there's looked like Jordan was looking for a new sewer plant and some road and bridges. A lot of money to spend.
Bill?
Yeah, I attended a scale meeting. We also attended, I attended the facilitator meeting about the city council governance, and I guess I have a question for Steve is like, when's the next step? Like, do we have a calendar of when we're all gonna meet?
Not yet. He hasn't reached out to set that yet.
Okay,
Hopefully this week I'll have more information.
okay, thank you. That's it.
Sue?
No.
Shane? Linda? Abe?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Zonto, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Yeah.